There,
There.
we're back.
Hey. Work this week. See, you never know.
Ta-da!
Well, good evening, everybody, and happy Easter, first of all. Welcome back to our Sunday night offering of Astronomy Edutainment, the Sunday Night Astronomy Show.
Yay.
Silence is
Silent night.
My name is Chris Gerwin. I'm the creator of the social media channels known as Astronomy by the Bay. I'm also an amateur astronomer and a member of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. Yay! I'd like to welcome back my two regular co-hosts this evening, Mr. Paul Owen from the Moonshot Observatory in beautiful Hampton. Paul, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
And Mr. Mike Powell from the PFO Observatory here in St. John. Hey, Mike.
good evening.
Good evening, everyone. All right, and we'd like to welcome all of you from YouTube and Facebook land for joining us this evening. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, so now on tonight's episode of the Sunday Night Astronomy Show, when I was much younger, I can remember warm summer days looking up at clouds and imagining familiar shapes. The same is true for the stars now on many warm evenings as well. We often say that the constellations are the road maps to the treasures the night sky holds. In fact, we have a monthly guest, Kurt Nason, who helps us understand all 88 of those constellations. But there are also certain patterns which we may find more familiar. These patterns we call asterisms. Now, an asterism is a pattern of stars that observers recognize and give names to, even if they don't correspond to an official constellation. While constellations are formally defined areas of the sky, asterisms are patterns that can exist within or across multiple constellations. Tonight, we're going to take a look at some of the common asterisms and how we can use them to navigate the night sky as we do with the constellations. Think of the Big Dipper as an example.
Yes.
Also tonight, Mona Bud will return with another fine binocular target of the week. Maybe an
Which is an
asterism.
asterism.
Paul's going to deliver another Rosanna's fun fact for us. And I'll have a look at a couple of celestial events coming up this week, along with the display of your photo submissions. Great. So let's get started, guys, with tonight's program and a chat about some of the best known asterisms.
One of my favorite terms, and I say to everybody at a star party that comes up to my telescope is, astronomy is 90% imagination, 10% what you see in the eyepiece, right? You look at the eyepiece, you see things, you see different shapes, you see, I'll see one thing and you might see something different in the same field of view. And we're going, cool. That's why it's called an asterism, because we see differently. They're not official. In fact, I found out just today that RAS Canada has a book out there that it's called the World Sky Culture of the World Asterism Project. And there's over 13,800 asterisms.
13,800. I thought it was 799, but 800. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Here, I'll just quickly show you. I can pull this up here because it blew me away to find out that there was that many. Where's my share screen? And they're not official. All of these are unofficial. But if you scroll down right here, so the world list recorded so far over 13,500 from over 580 different sky cultures around the world. So that's the world list of asterisms by RAS Canada, and that alone blew me away. Like, I know we look up, we see different things, but I didn't realize they were recording what is there, and then of course from different cultures as well. You might see a seagull, I might see a car, right? That's the same thing. The coat hanger, i.e. coat hanger. I suppose it's still a coat hanger, but that's the kind of thing that is fascinating to me, is that they're actually recording these, and they won't, I don't know if it'll ever become an official list, because how you see something and how I see something are two different things, right? Like 90% of my bino bud targets are binocular asterisms.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about it. I didn't want to pick Messier objects and things like that. I wanted to pick different stuff and use your imagination to find it. And that's how I built bino bud, was by using asterisms. So yeah, that's kind of cool.
It is.
Yes. It makes you a better observer, especially when you're doing stuff in binocular or even anything at an eyepiece. Really.
Yeah.
Now you have to start looking for bigger and larger stars, patterns, all that other stuff. So eventually, when you do that enough, you can start to almost recognize patterns right away. So when you're actually looking for something from a sky chart and you're looking for a pattern in the sky, to point your telescope toward, that'll actually help you do that. So
Hmm. We may look at Orion as a constellation. I mean, also the constellations are actually bigger than the shape of the constellation itself, right? So,
yeah,
um, but we'll look for the three stars that make up the belt on one side of the sky in the wintertime, and then in the summertime we have the teapot of Sagittarius, for instance. Which is one that's down close to the horizon. And then we have the Big and Little Dipper, are both, they're called Dipper here. They're called Plough, I believe, in England. I think in other places they call them a Chariot. And so it all depends on the culture that they come from, really, in what names you might pick out. There may be a lot more modern names to do as well, like the Spring Triangle or the Summer Triangle or the Hexagon, the Winter Hexagon. All names that are kind of familiar to us or common to us that we might be able to relate to easier than to pick out the constellation itself and the story behind it, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, they go from various sizes, like from naked eye, which would be something like the winter circle or the winter hexagon or the summer triangle, and then you get binocular targets that would be like the coat hanger or ET, and then you get that like a telescope one that's even zoomed in further, like mini Cassiopeia or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it goes across the whole spectrum of observing. So. And there's a section in there's an astronym in every single one of them. So it's something it definitely keep you going if you're going to look for 13,500 of them or whatever they
yeah.
have there listed.
Yeah.
If you look at Cygnus, for example,
Do we have to?
We did to figure that was coming somewhere.
Yeah.
well, I had to put it in there because the door's open.
Wonder
So
why
anyway,
we,
if
I
you look
wonder
at
why we don't show the show in the summertime.
a lot of people, well, it's known as Cygnus the Swan. So if you look at that, you can see a swan. But then a lot of people call it the Northern Cross. So if you look at that, you can see a cross. So it's
Okay.
really all a matter of what you're looking at and who named it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Who are not named it because it's not official, but I'm sure that like that Rask book, it'd be interesting to see, what is deemed a semi-official asterism. Like, so there's so many people have to agree on that it looks like that, and then it becomes an asterism per se, not like a constellation that's actually named by the union, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So anyway, that'd be interesting to find out.
I did notice that there are like one asterism can have 3 or 4 different names.
Right.
That's in there. Now, yeah, how they pick what goes on that list, that one I didn't look into yet. But that'd be
Yeah.
interesting to find out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, like I say, to check that out.
My guess would be it's just popularity. It would pop up. The more they hear it, then gee, there must be something there.
Yeah. Um, and there are some asterisms that were born on certain dates because of certain things that they're called that weren't around. I'll leave that alone because that's going to be talked about a little later. But yeah, so I mean, there were certain things that are called certain things that didn't even exist before they were called, say, 100 years before they were called what they're called now. So
Yeah.
it's anyway,
Well,
all that stuff is
go ahead and give the example because I'm just going to talk about it later. But go ahead. You
well, for
can
for
explain that.
example, the ET cluster.
Hmm.
I mean, how many times have you gone to a star party? It's one of our favorite things to show people, but it's more for people our age because people who are kids now, a lot of them have never seen ET. They don't even know what it is.
Right.
And people before us had never seen the show. So until June 11th, 1982, there was no ET cluster. It was
Right.
called something else, and I'll leave that alone for now. But it was called something else. So these asterisms, some of them are born quite recent, and in astronomy, 1982 was pretty recent.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe, I guess Stellarium up here. So while we keep talking here, I'll share my screen with Stellarium on it.
So the Big Dipper is one that I think everybody knows in the sky. You could say the Big Dipper, and there's probably not too many people that don't know what it is or how to find it in the sky.
yeah.
Yet it's an asterism.
Right.
That's not a constellation.
Hmm.
So, and I think Chris is on that one, is he? Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Okay. So there's the asterism. Less the Mini Dipper, and so it's called the Plow. It's called the Dipper. It's called a hoe. I think, a hole or something like
It's a
that.
it's a chariot in some places as well.
Chariot.
Yeah.
You know, so because of depending on who saw it, and then there are indigenous names for it as well.
Right.
You know, so it's really it's quite interesting to see that you somebody may say, do you know where such and such is in the sky? No one ever heard of it.
Hmm.
And then you say, well, no, well, maybe not that. How about this? Oh yeah, I know what that one is.
Right,
So
right. The Big Dipper is probably more well known than Ursa Major,
yeah, yeah,
right? Simple as that.
yeah,
The Little
exactly.
Dipper is Ursa Minor, right? It's known as Little Dipper.
This
Yeah.
doesn't work. Can you guys see something else here now or no?
Time and date.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's another thing about the Big Dipper is the fact that that time and date says that you can tell time with the Big Dipper. So if you use Polaris, the North Star, and pass down through the two stars, Merak and Dubhe, the two that you use to point to Polaris, and the clock goes actually counterclockwise. So as the Big Dipper is rotating across the sky, then you can see the time would change. So that's something that they use. Use the Big Dipper to find North Star, and also use it to tell time.
Yeah,
So yeah, kind of cool.
That's very cool.
it is. And it's a 24-hour clock, not a 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the guys at Time and Date have some pretty excellent stuff.
Well,
Oh,
that's appropriate from timeanddate.com.
It is. There's the sickle of Leo as well, like the Leo constellation.
Yeah.
The sickle, and then we have the spring triangle there, and we also have the Great Diamond. We're looking at May sky here. And then we're into here comes the summer triangle.
Triangle, yep. And
Yeah,
the
as you can
Northern
see,
Cross.
Northern Cross we just talked about.
Coat hanger there.
The mini Cassiopeia.
Yeah. The coat hanger.
They say as you move into the summer constellations, you start even seeing, more added to that with the teapot and the Scorpius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we take our sky south here. There's a
There's
teapot.
a teapot. And that one is so accurate because the mist from the Milky Way acts like the steam coming off your teapot.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah, that's just steam coming
That's
out.
pretty cool.
That's a pretty common one for the summer. And then we've got the Great Square of Pegasus, of course, too. You should see that in the fall sky, I believe. Here it is. Right now, is that it there? Yeah, it's coming up.
Part of it, yeah.
Part of it, yeah. So
Been on the time.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there are many. This is the
Starting out of the winter octagon.
winter circle coming back up. Yeah.
Yeah. Some call it circle, some call it octagon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And inside that's the winter triangle.
That's right. So yeah, there's lots and lots of targets out there that we can use that that we don't use as constellations, but we use as guideposts. I'll say to get around to parts of the sky that we want to be familiar. There's a Great Square of Pegasus right there.
Yeah. I mean, how many people recognize the house?
Right. Yeah.
Cepheus.
Cepheus,
Cepheus, is that how you pronounce it? Cepheus?
Cepheus, yeah.
And yeah, it's a house. No matter you look up at it, there it is. It's a house. There's no arguing it.
Yeah.
Or even Cassiopeia as a W or an M.
W shape, yeah, that's right. The W Cassiopeia, yeah.
And then that leads into other asterisms like mini Cassiopeia.
Right.
There's a couple of those. So
Chris, can you put up are you on Stellarium? Yeah, you
Yeah.
are. Can you put up the actual constellation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I don't think I can, Paul, because way I've got mine set up right now. One of you guys want to open it up?
Yeah.
Because when I do that, I pick out one particular say star, and it'll show me the constellation for that particular one.
Yeah. Well, just as long as we can see a constellation, because I want to kind of, if it's possible, because constellations are invisible boundaries. You can't see them,
Asterisms.
right?
well, here I got it up there if you want.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
There's Cepheus. Okay, let me stop sharing.
You want the Big Dipper, Paul, or
Whatever, just as long as you can see well, that would be a good one because everybody's familiar with the asterism. So
we should be able to see the Big Dipper here?
yeah, but the actual boundaries, if you go to a constellation book, and there's actual boundaries in and around the stars that separate one constellation to the next. I'm not sure Stellarium shows that.
It does. I just have to find the boundary.
Yeah. But if you look at Ursa Major, for example, what we call the Big Dipper. You might as well, you got that there, Mike. You can see the Big Dipper itself, but then you start to see all these other branches or lines that go off of it. And but when you look at it, you would probably be confused to try to see that. So because of the main stars, the brightest stars, point out that plow, right? Or the
Right.
dip.
There you can see the boundary lines go way over here and way up here and way over here.
Right, but they're invisible.
Yeah.
Do you
So the
have
boundary
that?
lines,
Do you
yeah.
have
So
the
the
button on Solarium, Paul or Mike? Sorry.
I'm showing what to show the boundaries.
Yeah.
I thought I was showing them now.
no, all we see are the
Just because the color doesn't come through. Just give me a second.
Okay.
yeah.
If I can change the color of the boundaries.
Or even just show the artwork for the
Well,
person.
that'll work too, I suppose.
Well, the artwork is still something that is man-made or imagined.
Is that coming up?
No.
No, I wonder if I've got a star chart book. I'll show you what it
A
means.
little behind. The artwork's not showing, really.
No.
Well, I'm looking at it. Isn't that
Oh,
funny?
really? Yeah.
Yeah. That's weird. That's a first. We
Yeah.
never found something out about Zoom.
I'm gonna stop sharing, Mike. I'll show in the book here.
Okay, I gotta find my.
I'm just gonna put a book up to look up to just find something that's there's Leo. There we go.
There we go.
I'm just gonna hold my camera up this to the camera
That works.
so you can see that all those boundary lines, the square lines, those things are actually where the boundaries are from one constellation to the next. But you don't see that. That's just something that was drawn, and this is what is written in stone in terms of what that constellation is. And then there's what Mike was showing you, which is the actual constellation made up from the shapes of the stars, all the stars that are contained there within. And then, of course, on top of that are the main pieces of it that we look up and recognize right away, which are the asterisms. So anyway, so there's a fair bit to to a constellation. What is it? Well, we just see it as points of light, but there's a lot of things that are involved in actually charting out and signifying a constellation.
Yeah. If I was to look at that part of the sky, I wouldn't look at Ursa Major necessarily. I'd be looking at the Big Dipper myself, personally. But,
Right.
And you'd want to find things that are easier for you to identify. So because you're basically trying to find your way around the sky,
Right.
using them as a marker, with a shape like the Big Dipper would be something that you would pinpoint. Like that's a very familiar shape to do.
Yeah. Well, even in the reticle of your telescopes,
Mm.
there are asterisms. They just show you the
Right.
the lesser parts, so because
Right.
those are the most recognizable that we see with our eye, right?
Yeah.
So the Big Dipper is on one side and Cassiopeia is on the other in a reticle.
Yeah.
So that you know where in relation to where the sky should be, should Cassiopeia be, say, at 6 o'clock and Big Dipper be at 8 o'clock or 11 o'clock, whatever it is. But that's what they show you is that because that's what you see immediately.
If anybody on here wants to comment on what they find is their most familiar asterism, I'd like to see what you think. Like for me, it's really the Big Dipper, Great Square of Pegasus, the W of Cassiopeia, the Teapot and Sagittarius. They're all pretty. It's the spring and summer triangles.
Leo,
Dan-
Lion,
Dan says the Messier list is long enough. Let alone trying to find 13,000 asterisms.
yeah.
And Mike Thorne is all hail mighty Cygnus.
Yeah, it's not summer. We're not talking about Cygnus.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and as we get into that part of the year, I mean, right now we're seeing specific ones that are based on spring type of year, like the Circle of Leo and that type of.
Right.
As we move into the summer ones, we see another whole bunch, right?
Yeah.
And again, they're just familiar shapes that we might see, that we might pick out a shape of. And I think there's even more modern ones. Some people are seeing like cars and planes and
Yeah.
other types of shapes.
It never ends. It's kind of like you said, spotting the clouds and trying to figure out what that shape of the cloud is, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I see
whatever
I
works,
see a cow. Yeah.
Whatever works for the person who's trying to navigate the way on the sky is best, right? I mean, yeah, it's nice to know the constellations, and all 88 would be nice, and to see all 88 would be really nice.
Very nice, yeah.
But ultimately, when we're looking inside that piece, we're trying to navigate ourselves around that part of the sky to make it familiar. So the next time we go out, we can find it again, kind of thing. For me, one of the common ones is like a Pegasus. When you take the Great Square of Pegasus, and if you go out 2 stars and up 2 stars, right there you'll find the Andromeda Galaxy.
Do you guys remember the game Light Bright?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of what
Remember, I was playing with it just a few minutes ago.
there you go. So that's kind of what it's like when you look at grouping of stars,
Yeah.
because it's going to be the most dominant ones that we see with the naked eye, because our eye only has so much magnitude that we can detect with it, which is up to about probably 6 if we're, good, really good eyes, maybe 7 if you're a kid. And but there are so many more stars in a constellation that are at different magnitudes than that we don't see. So it's the ones that we look up and we see immediately that we actually start to look at those sort of light bright shapes. Oh, look at that shape. That's what that is. And because it's so dominant, that's where we look right away. And then once we're in that part of the sky, then we start taking the stars and start star hopping to other parts or pieces or features that are in those constellations.
Let me share my screen just one more time here because I got that back up again, Paul, with the artwork.
Mhm.
Yeah, so here we are with the artwork.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so there's Pegasus the winged horse. Here's Cassiopeia the queen over here. Here's Cepheus the king, but it's also shaped like a house. And Camelopardalis over here, Perseus, Aquarius. There's Sagittarius, but it also looks like a teapot. So if we take the artwork off those, for instance, and then we can see the teapot kind of shape there.
Yeah.
And then if we bring on Asterism, this is all through Stellarium. So if you don't have this program, it's one of the best, I'd say probably the best freeware program out there to learn about the night sky through this type of means. You can download it for free. It's a very powerful program, has a lot of other things that it can do besides this. It can load in comets and asteroids. We can find MEPAC on it.
Yeah.
There's lots of other things that it does, but it does help you to learn where things are in the sky, and in this way you can kind of find different patterns. Like for me to find Andromeda easily, I might take the Great Square of Pegasus here. I'll count out 2 stars, then up 2 stars, and then right there is the Andromeda Galaxy. So it's kind of like little familiar things that you find like that. Or you'll take the W of Cassiopeia and the second V, and it points directly down to it as well. So
Right.
all kinds of little tricks like that that you can use when you're using asterisms as your guide. Okay, take that off again.
I got to show something here. I'm just going to share because if you ever wondered where I come up with these foolish ideas for the Bino Bud asterisms, a lot of them actually came from this site right here. It's the Milwaukee Astronomical Society, and it's a beginner's guide to binocular asterisms. This is where I found a lot of my Bino Bud targets, like the Orion S, Jacob's Coffin, Little Cassiopeia, Frederick's Glory I've done, the Northern Fly I've done, Herman's Cross I haven't done, but the coat hanger, of course, it's a great spot to go. The question mark I just did recently, home plate, you saw me sliding in there. This is the golf putter. This is where the actual spot. So I wasn't making up these Bino Bud targets on my own. I was actually getting them from this website because those are incredible targets. So just something I wanted to share with you.
Awesome. Mark says M45, the best Little Dipper for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is best in binoculars as well.
I'm just reading here. So here's the definition, an AI definition, I guess. So asterisms are recognizable patterns of stars, not formal constellations, that help observers navigate the night sky and identify other celestial objects. They act as visual aids for locating constellations, finding deep sky objects, and orienting oneself in the sky. So that's the actual definition of it, which is kind of what we've been saying,
Yeah.
but that's sort of the short nitty gritty of it. So if you're a new observer or somebody new to astronomy and you want to learn the night sky, you will be looking for asterisms.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right. Well, I'd say people get out there and take a look and see what you find.
Yeah.
Definitely, any season is good for asterisms, and we've all used them to find our way around to the next piece. One of the ones that we might use a lot, I used a lot, was to try to find M81, M82.
Mhm.
Use the bottom star of the pot and then top star of the pot and follow them straight out the same distance kind of thing. But things like that, you'll find that they'll help you to find your way around. You don't necessarily be looking at the constellation itself, but an asterism maybe within it or across it to
Yeah.
help as well. So
Yeah.
they are fun for sure. All right, let's go from there then to how about the Bino Bud next?
I know the bud.
Oh, bud.
Here.
Little bit.
And I will hit the share button here. It has to be, which go this screen. The binocular target of the week this week by Bino Bud is only, we mentioned this one at the beginning of the show. NGC 457, or the owl cluster. You know, astronomy is a hoot. But it's also known as ET to some, Wally to others, and actually the dragonfly is another one that goes out there as a name for it. So, but NGC 457 is the brightest open cluster in Cassiopeia and is one of the finest objects of this type in the northern sky. At a magnitude plus 6.4, it's just beyond naked eye visibility, but very easily seen in binoculars and telescopes. The bright cluster of stars arranged in prominent lines and curves that resemble an owl shape, or Wally or ET, and that's where we give it that name. So how would I find it in the sky? And tonight it's clear, even though it's like 700-mile-an-hour winds. If you were to step out at 10 o'clock tonight and orient yourself at 336 degrees northwest, looked up, you're going to see the sideways W of Cassiopeia. And like Chris, hey, we follow lines. We all know that take this V here and we point down towards Andromeda. Well, if you take the longest line and just continue it down to the bright star right here, that's where ET or the owl cluster is. Just another closer look. You take that longest line, come down, there's that bright star, and guess what? That's NGC 457. You can almost see him right there with his arms spread. What does it look like? Well, there's where you get ET from, right? And there's where you get the owl cluster from. And of course, anybody that's seen the movie Wall-E, they can see where that comes from too. So it's once you get on it, everybody, there's no question, when you're on it. You see those two big eyes, and it goes from there. 10 by 50 binoculars is not the largest target in the world, but you still spot it in 10 by 50s pretty easy. It stands up by itself. That one bright star is actually the two bright stars of his eyes. And compared to the full moon, it's probably 2/3 the size of the full moon. So, yeah, it's a good target, easily found. Once you see it, you know you're on it. And how many times at a star party, when you mention ET, people go, "Oh my God, yeah," right?
Yeah.
So you ready for this one? Now, this one's not a joke or a pun. This one is the truth. Astronomers who study the moon are optimists because they only look at the bright side. R. That's binocular target of the week by
Folks, we don't see these ahead of time. Mike surprises us with these, so we can't really cut them off. Like it's not like, don't say that one, Mike. But yeah,
that was a fact. A simple fact.
Some week they might be good, so we don't want to cut.
Yeah, we keep hoping. Fingers crossed.
Some older people might have caught something on that drawing, the dark side of the moon.
All right, let's go.
Show any rage.
Oh, that's too funny.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Let's go on to Rosanna's fun fact next.
Yeah, just give me a second there. I gotta find it.
NGC 457 will be something that we'll be sharing a lot through the summer, I'm sure.
Oh my! There we go.
It definitely is popular.
You get the jokes from that site too?
I'm gonna share my screen.
Somebody did ask you about the site. What's the website Mike uses again? Mark,
the Milwaukee Astronomical Institute.
Milwaukee Astronomical Institute. Okay.
All right, here we go. This is
Rosanna's Fun Fact.
Hey, welcome back, Rosanna, for another crazy fun fact. Let's get right into it. Rosanna writes, "Hi, Paul. For the most part, we are all at the mercy of the media and journalists, hoping they will dive deep and track down the real story when the headlines flash our way. This real story is a nerve-wracking tale not at all what was originally posted. Now, you just hang on a second. I'm going to get the real story pictures because I don't think I brought them up. Give me 1 second. And there we go. And we'll start right there. And put it right there. There we go. Okay. So astronaut Butch Wilmore receives a warm welcome from astronauts Reed Wiseman and Woody Hoberg after completing a long science mission aboard the ISS. We all know the story of Boeing's Starliner spacecraft launched on June the 4th, 2024. With the vehicle's first crew mission, astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore. The public was soon informed that some thrusters had misfires, changing an 8-day mission into months of being stranded on the ISS. On April the 1st, 2025, Ars Technica published an interview with Barry Butch Wilmore, and it is no April Fool's joke. It is the tale of a harrowing experience, and this is the picture that accompanied one of the first headlines. Boeing Starliner's first ever crew. Just a sec here now. I'm going to stretch this so I can see the whole thing. There we go. Oh, that's a long headline. Boeing Starliner's first ever crewed mission with Sunita Williams and Butch Whitmore on board safely on its way to International Space Station. Before getting on to liftoff, Boeing Starliner spacecraft faced multiple delays. These included a faulty valve on the Atlas V rocket's upper stage and a helium leak inside the spacecraft. There were also weaknesses in the parachute system and potentially combustible elements in the wiring harness. The valve issue in early May stood the mission down long enough that Wilmore asked to fly back to Houston for additional time in a flight simulator to keep the skills fresh. Finally, with fine weather, the Starliner crew flight test took off from Cape Canaveral, Florida. It marked the first human launch of the Atlas V rocket, which had a new Centaur upper stage with 2 engines. Suni Williams comments on the first cold night aboard the Starliner before getting stranded on the ISS. Both astronauts acknowledged the launch was perfect. To quote Barry, "It was exhilarating. It was fantastic. Yeah, it really was." After Starliner separated from the Atlas V rocket, Williams and Wilmore performed several maneuvering tests and put the vehicle through its paces. Starliner performed exceptionally well during these initial tests on day 1. When it was time to catch a few hours of sleep, both Suni and Butch found the spacecraft cold, a cool 10 degrees Celsius, and ended up donning their spacesuits early. After a few hours of fitful sleep, Wilmore decided to get up and start working to get his blood pumping. He reviewed the flight plan and knew it was going to be a big day. Wilmore had been concerned about the performance of the vehicle's reaction control system thrusters. There are 28 of them. Around the perimeter of the Starliner service module, at the aft of the vehicle, there are 4 doghouses equally spaced around the vehicles housing the thrusters. Boeing Starliner spacecraft is pictured docked to the International Space Station, one of the 4 doghouses of the service manual. And that was that photo there. The image of the thrusters with the doghouses removed is what you're looking at now. Butch states that before the flight, they had a meeting with a lot of the senior Boeing executives, including the chief engineer. He was asked what was the biggest concern. I said the thrusters and the valves because we had failures on the OFT missions. You don't get the hardware back. Unlike the black box on an airplane, Starliner's service module is jettisoned before the crew capsule returns from orbit. So you're just looking at data and engineering judgment to say it's okay, must have been FOD, foreign object debris, or whatever the various issues they had. And I said, that's what concerns me the most, because in my mind, I'm thinking if we lose thrusters, we could be in a situation where in space, We can't control it. That's what I was thinking. So insert Murphy's Law right about now. So when vehicles approach the space station, they use two imaginary lines to help guide their approach. These are the R bar, which is the line connecting the space station to the center of the Earth. And the R stands for radius. Then there is the V bar, which is the velocity vector of the space station. As the Starliner neared the V bar about 260 meters or 850 feet from the space station, they lost the thruster, and Wilmore had to take manual control of the vehicle. As they got even closer, the loss of the second thruster meant that the loss of 6 DOF, or 6 degrees of freedom, or the 6 different movements possible in a three-dimensional space: forward, back, up, down, left, right, yaw, pitch, and roll. The condition of being single fault tolerant means that the vehicle could sustain just one more thruster failure after the first one before being at risk of losing full control of the Starliner's movement. This would necessitate a mandatory abort of the docking attempt. Mission Control debated whether to suspend the single fault rule in order to hopefully allow a safe docking with the ISS, as a safe return was unlikely. Just as NASA waives a single fault rule, which would have meant an immediate return to Earth if possible, a third thruster failed, and then unbelievably a fourth. So at this point, Suni and Butch are basically powerless and drifting in space. They have the nose of the spacecraft pointed at the docking station, but can do nothing to direct its path. They cannot return to Earth either. Mission Control decides to reboot the thrusters. So imagine that. You're drifting away from the space station. You're still trying to maintain your position. The station is your only real lifeline, because if you lose the ability to dock, the chance of coming back in one piece is quite low. And now, even though you have no real control, you're being told to let go. Can you imagine? Butch was loath to begin up control, but in the end, he called down to Mission Control, hands off. After some tense minutes, 2 of the thrusters came back online. Butch took control again, albeit very sluggish control, but was soon told to relinquish control again, as Mission wanted to try to reboot the other 2 thrusters. Sitting through the perilous second reboot, a third thruster came back on. Mission Control then wanted to put the spaceship under autonomous control, but Butch was more than reluctant to switch. He was concerned that once it went into automation mode, he would not be able to get control back should more thrusters fail. So in the end, the automated docking of the ISS was a success and just the beginning of yet another ordeal. Suni and Butch's eventual return to Earth would take months and was fraught with technical and political issues. They would not be taking a ride home in a Starliner, but instead on a SpaceX capsule. They finally made it back to Earth on March 18, 2025, an over 9-month-long mission instead of the planned 8 days. Splashdown dolphin greeting the committee. So you can see all the dolphins sitting there. So in the true spirit of collaboration, which is what the space program and the ISS are founded on, the astronauts on board welcomed Suni and Butch and made the best of their guests' lengthy visit. Truly, they were house guests that couldn't go home even if they wanted to. The new NASA diet, simple, effective. Just lock yourself up for 6 months with a month of food supply. It works. And that's this week's
Rosanna's Fun Fact.
Thank you so much. Now that was an absolute interesting journey. We've all watched it unfold in front of us, but when it's condensed like that, there's a lot of stuff that went on with those 2 people.
That's great.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it was scary for sure for them.
Yeah. No
You're up
question.
there, you're between the Earth and the space station. You can't go either way. Like,
Yeah. Like, what do you do? You
what do you
know,
do? Yeah,
it was almost like the Apollo 13 crew.
yeah.
All of a sudden they got to start stripping stuff off, losing power. They had a little more control, I guess, over theirs, but
They didn't have an explosion, and they weren't halfway on the way to the moon either.
Oh. But
yeah.
still, it goes right back to the very first beginnings of NASA when they were talking to the original six, and they were looking at just putting them in a can and sending them up. And it was those guys that argued, no, we want some control of some sort,
Yeah, that's right.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. NASA had said we don't need astronauts. We don't need people who can control the vehicle. We'll do it all automated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's how you lose people, right? So, anybody who trains as much as they do
Mm.
to be able to control that, or at least think in their mind, I have options,
Mm.
that's an astronaut.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, when you look back in the history of some of what some of these guys did because of complications, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, look
Neil
at the
Arm-
math. Look at just in
Yeah.
the math alone that they all had to
Crazy.
be so well versed in.
Yeah.
And I mean, and just, not basic, I mean, some very complicated mathematical things that they need to be able to do on the spot with a
Yeah.
pencil and a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Just, like I say, unbelievable. Now, because of all the automation that's out there, we rely on it. And if it fails, we better know how to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think they'll let us take over our self-driving cars someday?
Hard to say.
There better be manual brakes on. That's all I can say.
Dan says we send 6 women to orbit for 11 minutes, and now they're astronauts. There's another whole topic. we had talked about that earlier.
It is. I think
Yeah.
that's just a name that they threw on them. I mean, I don't think any one of them think that they're astronauts. I don't think that they're putting that handle on themselves. I think they know the difference between just what we talked about. And if they were in any kind of peril going up there and coming back down, they wouldn't have a clue what to do because they're not trained. That's not what they do.
No,
But they had fun. You know what I mean? And if I could afford it, would I do it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a ride. They were a passenger on a spacecraft.
They were.
Passenger on a ride. Yeah.
They were. They were in space and they came back, and they're very fortunate to have that
Oh,
experience.
I heard it equated to at one time, if you went up on an airplane, you were an aviator. Now everybody flies in an airplane. So is everybody an aviator? Only, or just the people that fly it?
Yeah. I like to say, I don't think anybody is. I think the media call them that because it's just what the media do. But
Yeah.
I don't think that any one of them really consider themselves an astronaut.
Seriously, no. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more to an astronaut for sure. And yeah, Brad says the Vinyl Bud jokes are laughterisms.
But are they,
That's a runner too, isn't it?
or are they gronerisms?
Rosanna does have a page, Rose Art Sky, I believe it's called, on YouTube. And
Yeah.
she posts all these Rosanna's fun facts. So if you want to go out and check out her channel, she has them all up there from weeks in the past. So
Yeah. Yeah. They're up there and they're good. And you hear, I think it's Rosanna's voice on them.
that is, yeah.
And which is nice. I wish that she would come and voice one for us here. But anyway, she's being Mr. Wilson.
Yeah,
And, we'll have to respect
even that would be okay. Just events post, yeah. Anyway, okay, all right, let's go on then to some photos, which I have, and a few things that are happening this week. So that's my turn now. So let me get the screen going here. I think I already had them open. Okay, it brings it up over there. Good. Okay, so notes. All right, start off with share my screen. Share screen too. Actually, share this one.
There you go.
Got it? Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so we got this one from Ken Muskolik. So Ken says this is an image of 8 Flora with Leo triplet last Sunday morning. Now, he said that was last Sunday morning. He sent it in actually just a little bit late for last week's show, so I missed it, but I wanted to be sure I included it on this week. So there we go. Leo triplet, nice.
Yeah, it's there.
Visitor 8 Flora, Leo triplet. Oh, it's a main belt. Must be an asteroid, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Over 3.25 years.
Wow.
Awesome. Nice one. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah. Very good.
Let's go from there to Mark Fickin's captures here of the sun, Sea Star, S30. And we have some other ones here as well.
There's still some good sunspots coming.
Still is, yeah. And there's actually a huge coronal hole right now too, right here.
Yeah.
Huge. I guess it's one of the largest of the cycle. And it's emitting all kinds of solar wind right now, and we may have a G1 to G2 possible aurora show on Tuesday night, I guess they're saying.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks. And there's a nice colored one there as well. Thanks, Mark. And here's this shot of M101.
That's
Now,
her.
100 minutes he said added last night with the Sea Star S30 and Bronte. M101 is a large galaxy with a diameter of 252,000 light years. By comparison, the Milky Way has a diameter of 87,400 light years. It has around 1 trillion stars, this one. It has a disk mass on the order of 100 billion solar masses, along with a small central bulge of about 3 billion solar masses. Its characteristics can be compared to those of the Andromeda Galaxy.
Wow.
Nicely done.
Mm.
Yeah, very nice.
All right, yeah. All right, I'm going to move from there to, and here's this other capture of it. So this shows a little
Yeah.
more than what's out and around it.
Annotation on it, yeah.
Hmm.
There's a lot of stuff going on there.
There
isn't
is
it?
right there, isn't there? All kinds, yeah.
We look at the one target,
Yeah.
but there are so many other things in and around any
And
one of
around. Yeah.
galaxies
Yeah.
that we see. So it's almost kind of like those asterisms. There's the one we want to see.
Yeah, the
What's
pinwheel
around it?
asterism.
Look at that. Never noticed that before. Oh, look at that.
Let's move now to Kathy Adams' capture here of the Sunflower Galaxy again.
Very nice.
Another
Another
hour.
galaxy just up from it.
Yeah.
So if you
another-
look to the right and just above
I'll point the mouse.
sunflower, yeah, no, go to the right now.
No, this is my right, Paul. This is my right over here. This is my left over here.
No, the other way.
This way? That's
No.
what you're saying, right? Okay, I'm going this way.
Right, there you go, and go up a little bit.
Yeah, right there.
There's a
Yeah.
galaxy
there you
right
go.
there. That's just one of probably a few that if you had a little larger field of view.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to actually go look those up and see what they're shaped like and what kind of shaped galaxy they are and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anyway, very nice.
Another hour added, she said, to my M63 data. This is 3 hours with my Dwarf 3, 2 hours on the 9th, and an hour on the 14th. Might have a clear night this weekend. We'll try again with more data, so I'm not sure how she made out, but
Yeah, very nice.
very nice.
Need a wind blocker, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure. Going to move to Robert Gaudet's capture here of the sun. I love his capture.
Yeah, beautiful shot.
Yeah. So I wasn't
Yeah.
doing any solar imaging lately with my solar scope, the Lint 40. ISI Air Plus for some frame capture using an ASI 174 planetary camera. Best 16% of 7,000 frames stacked in auto stackered 4, processed with IMPPG and PS or Photoshop. No prominences today, he said. Anyways, sunspots 40, 64, 40, 66, 67, and 60, all seen here.
Yeah.
Lots of filaments seen, and the chromosphere was quite clear today, April the 18th, around 1:30. So it was a couple of days ago, but still, yeah.
Look at the filaments. That's just incredible, the detail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done one.
that's just a 40 millimeter scope he's using.
Yeah, it is too. Yeah, that's crazy. Eh?
Yeah.
There's some amazing stuff there. There's another close up.
I think the sun will be bright enough.
I think so. Yeah.
Obviously, that's nice.
Nice sunspot. Nice job, Robert.
Yeah, very nice.
All right, I'm going to move to someone else that we don't get to focus on here very much because he puts his posts up on the St. John Astronomy Club, and I go in there and grab pictures every once in a while. So I happen to see these ones from Francois Theriault.
Yes, sir.
So Francois has this one, NGC 6543, the Cat's Eye Nebula.
Sorry, yeah.
My version of the Cat's Eye Nebula in Draco, he says, the planetary nebula itself is the cloud of gas being ejected from the central nebula core, possibly from a dying star. Its interesting shape makes it a popular target amongst astronomers. However, it is very difficult to capture due to its nature and size. I processed it in HOO since S2 signal is almost non-existent. Telescope was an Astrotech 8. Look at that. My little scope.
Yeah.
Tech AT7280, the little tiny scope I use for on top of my CPC 11.
There you go.
That's my refractor scope. Look at that. Isn't that cool?
There you go.
ZWO-ASI 1600 millimeter Pro camera. So that's just a tiny little 3-inch telescope. Exposures each, he's got all the times here. I'll just say the total was 14.75 hours.
Wow.
Wow.
A lot of light gathering for sure.
Mm.
So if you look to the right of it again, you'll see another
Another
galaxy.
galaxy, yeah, right in the corner.
Right here, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. Nicely done, Francois. Here's
Thank
another one for him.
that's
This one's
cool.
the headphones nebula.
Yeah.
Um, he says it's in links. I discovered this unusual object by searching through my sky atlas and thought it would be fun to try it. Extremely dim planetary nebula, presently high in the sky right now in the Lynx constellation. I find it difficult to extract the faint nebula from the background signal in my light polluted backyard. The last session supplements the data I collected last winter. Same telescope again, same equipment, 12.4 hours of integration time.
Yeah, very nice.
Cool. Headphones. It looks like a set of headphones.
That's neat.
Yeah.
True to his name. And this one, of course, the Horsehead region in Orion. I keep coming back to this well-known target every year. He says, I usually image it in narrowband, giving it a particularly orangey yellow hue due to the abundance of H alpha signal in the capture. The data was collected over 2 nights last December with a total integration time of over 8 hours of data. He was using a Malincam VRC8 with a focal length of 1625 millimeters. The camera was a ZWO ASI 1600 millimeter Pro. Great job.
That is an asterism.
It is an astro. Let's go from there to this one. And this I had to bring this up because this is
That never gets old, eh?
Oh, I love these globular clusters. And this one is probably one of the nicest.
Mm.
M3 globular cluster. So since we have a full moon right now, he said I decided to image a target that is fairly bright and will not be affected by the light pollution from the moon. Messier 3 is a nice globular cluster located in Canis Venatici. It is one of the brightest objects in the spring sky and can be visually observed even from light polluted skies, such as in the city. He imaged this over 2 evenings. He used a Malincam VRC8. Again, the camera was a ZWO ASI 1600, and the total integration time was 6.4 hours. So,
Did he say what telescope? It looks like it's a Newtonian.
he said the Malincam VRC8.
That's the camera.
Focal length of 1625 millimeters. Just
Oh,
yeah,
they make a telescope?
I guess so. VRC-8.
Oh, look it up.
Camera was a ZWO ASI 1600 millimeter.
Yeah, I'm going to look that up. I've never
Yeah,
seen one.
look at that though. Look at the deep, like this. Oh, crazy. I just picture myself, whenever I see one of these, I picture myself, my sky would look like if it was on one of the stars here. And like what my sky would be filled with for stars, right? If you're on a planet orbiting one of these tiny stars.
Oh, I wonder if those Richie Cretchy 8-inch, like the Ioptron.
Yeah, Rich Kensha, it must be. Yeah. Anyway, great,
Yeah, very nice
capture.
job.
And I'm going to move from there to Winston Koch's picture here. Present to you cluster NGC 1893 and nebula IC 410. They sit in space at about 12,000 light years away. In the nebula, you will notice 2 items that look like tadpoles, hence the name, the Tadpole Nebula. This shot was taken in the constellation of Auriga. I used an ASCAR 71F with an Antilla H alpha and O3 filter, as well as an AM5 and ASI Air computer. Great job, Winston.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
I call them the meatballs.
Yeah. And if you have any images that you want to share, send them in, please, to astronomybythebay@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to put them up on our next broadcast. So let's go from there to thank you for all those submissions. Let's go from there to what we're going to see in the sky. So tomorrow evening we have tomorrow morning actually, peaks tomorrow morning, the Lyra meteor shower. This is looking east at 4 a.m. Atlantic time. So here's the summer triangle popping up in the morning sky. We see Lyra up here, which is part of the constellation of Lyra with the bright star Vega. The radiant, or the spot where they seem to come from, is up here on the top right. But they can come from any part of the sky, really, anyway. So this is in eastern, looking east at 4 a.m. So it's about 20 degrees up or so from the horizon at that time.
Mhm.
And the show is about 10 to 20 meteors per hour under dark sky. So not a great show, but still an opportunity to see some meteors if you enjoy that kind of thing. So that's tomorrow morning, the Lyra meteor shower peaking. Also, tomorrow, Mercury is at its greatest, that should say Western elongation, not Eastern. It rises in the east early morning. This is around 6 a.m. Atlantic time. So we have, there's the orbit of Mercury. So it's reached its farthest point west that it can in its orbit. Um, so that's why it's called the greatest Western elongation. Bright Venus there too, and Saturn, which are going to join together a little bit later. I'm going to talk about that here in a second. So if you want to catch Mercury, this is time to catch it. Now, this one, because this is what's going around the internet right now. Mark your calendar for a nice smiley face that will appear in the sky on April 25th. No, it will not look like this, and that's a meme that's been going around now for a couple of weeks, and people are just, oh, we can't wait to see it. And so here's kind of a view. Now this is the view from I'm saying from Rio de Janeiro. So their sky is tilted a little bit different than ours. So here is Venus, and here is Saturn, and here is the moon. This does look like it's very big, but it's not. It's just that the stellarium shows them as brighter objects as larger objects. So there's the moon. And if we want to zoom in a little bit, here's Venus, Saturn, and the waning moon. So if you want to say that's a happy face, celestial happy face, okay, might go with that. That's looking east at 5 a.m. from Rio. So head down to Rio and see if you can see that. Otherwise, here's what we get. So the real view for us on Friday morning, here's Venus, here's Mercury, and here's the waning crescent moon. So very thin moon here, looking east at 5:30 a.m. Atlantic time, which is almost the time of sunrise. So you've only got a very short time to take a look at this triplet here, sitting here, this nice celestial real.
You know something? If I saw that, I would definitely have a smiley face.
Oh, there, yeah. I mean, all you got to do is turn your head to the side, right, a little bit.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is so don't be looking for this one. That's all. Just face the fact that you're going to be looking at this one, but it's still a very pretty sight for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, and of course, we'll have guaranteed clear skies because it's an event happening, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Now let's go to something else here. What else have we got? Oh, I got yep. So our perigee super new moon arrives next Sunday morning at 4:30 Atlantic. Expect higher than normal tides in that time. So what we mean by new moon, of course, is when the moon is between us and the sun, and it's a perigee in spring tide, which means that its closest approach. The moon is at its closest approach to us at that time. So the moon does go around us in an elliptical path. And at that time, it'll be at its close. So it'll be pulling on our oceans a lot harder. So that's why we'll have higher than normal tides. So that's it, I think. Oh yeah, in this one. So on May 3rd, to celebrate International Astronomy Day, Mike, Paul, myself, and Kurt will be offering a free astronomy workshop. It's going to take place at the Rockwood Park Interpretive Center, right beside the duck pond by Little Lake there. St. John. The time is from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we'll have about an 80-minute talk each time, like from 9 till 10:30 and 10:30 to 12, two more in the afternoon. There'll be 4 different topics, one about the night sky, finding your way around the night sky, one about the solar system objects that we might see this year, one about equipment, and one about photography. So we'll be posting the times of each topic there. You can come for one of the talks, 2 of the talks, or all the talks if you like. It's a full day session for beginners and to help you out getting started as we come into the summer season here. So watch for that. You can sign up for that by sending me an email that you'd like to sign up for it at astronomybythebay@gmail.com. I'm collecting all the addresses there, and we'll send out a group email talking more about it. And I'd like to go to this. This is from Lisa Fanning from Lisa's Lookup, Astronomy and More. She has a nice page on Facebook there. And she's also on Instagram, Mastodon, Threads, and now on Blue Sky. So this is the chart she puts out every month. This is one for April, of course. She lists the event, she lists the date of the event, the peak time of the event, and what you need to see it with, naked eye, binoculars, or a telescope. So again, find her at Ruby Moonbeams on Instagram, Mastodon, Facebook, Threads, and now on Blue Sky. Thank you, Lisa. And moving over to our calendar for April, May, this is the calendar created by Kurt. Kurt Nason creates this because it's a 6-week view of what's going to be happening this week. Here we are with the week coming up. Of course, Mercury elongation, Lyra's peak, and then back into Moon and Mars and Venus. So you can download that at sjastronomy.ca or at rasknb.ca. So there, that should be it for me, I think.
Ta-da!
There. All right. We're going to close out this part. And I'm going to open up this part. And I'm going to sit here like this. There. Okay. So, I guess, well, that's our show for this evening, everybody. We'll hope you all enjoy the program tonight. Now, next week, we have an exciting special guest lined up for next week. Professor Karim Jafar is going to join us from John Abbott College. He's going to talk to us about his considerable work in astronomy outreach, including an upcoming RASC sponsored event for International Astronomy Day. So we'll talk a lot about that. I'm looking forward to Karim joining us again. Now, special thanks too goes out to once again to Rosanna for another interesting Rosanna's fun fact. Thank you, Rosanna. Always great to have your topics. And special thanks to all of you who share our program with your friends and family. Remember too, we do love getting your photos, so send them in to astronomybythebay@gmail.com. We'll be happy to put them up on my next broadcast. And until next week, then I guess, wishing you clear skies. As we'd like to say, guys, open your eyes to view the skies and keep your scopes.
Point it out.
Happy Easter, everyone. Have a great week. And maybe sign out.